Have you ever had negative thoughts in your mind that you aren't good enough, that you'll never be successful? If so, you're not alone. I've had those thoughts playing in my mind ever since I took the leap to become an entrepreneur. It's a dirty, dark secret that no one likes to talk about, as the glamorization of becoming an entrepreneur is shown in the media. I realized that in order to succeed, I needed help. We all do. So I decided to go all in on myself, spending thousands of hours in the trenches, reading, joining groups, listening to podcasts, hiring coaches to develop a bulletproof morning routine for success. Join me on my journey as together we build our morning fire to ignite our lives as entrepreneurs. My name is Jeff Wickersham, and this is the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast.
Welcome to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. I've got special guest on the show today, Curt Mercadante, and Curt is an individual who helps executives, entrepreneurs, and enterprises become more purposeful, productive, and profitable. Curt has been in business for about 23 years, counseling small businesses, entrepreneurs, as well as some of the largest corporations and associations in the country. He's built 3 profitable businesses, including a 7-figure public relations and advertising agency. Curt, welcome to the show.
Jeff, it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's get some energy in. Let's do some power breathing. If you're watching, listening along, you can do the same thing. We're going to do 2 power breaths where we breathe in through the belly, up the chest, and almost up the back of our head. We're going to raise our hands as we do it. Go ahead, breathe in and out. Good. Another breath in and out. And then we're going to do a power boom in 3, 2, 1. Boom!
Boom!
Love it. Love it. All right, Curt, let's get right to it. I eat, sleep, and breathe morning habits, rituals, routines. I know you have a go-to that you leverage every single day. Tell my audience a little bit about what you do to kind of set you down that path for success daily.
Yeah, really over the past month, it's changed a little bit. You know, I kind of flow and change based on my energy patterns. But it involves, I wake up, a big drink of ionized water. Here we're living on the beach for the past month. I go and I watch the sunrise every morning. It's different every morning. And then I read. I've been reading recently the Tao Te Ching, kind of a morning meditative reading. And then I'll do breathing and a few different types of breathing. I become obsessed with it this year, especially in terms of what's going on health-wise and COVID. But Wim Hof, I do Wim Hof breathing. And I've been doing that a lot lately, actually more throughout the day. But also there's a great book called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McEwen. And you really read it, Google nitric oxide and nasal breathing, and you'll look at what we're doing regarding masks and what nasal breathing actually does in terms of antiviral impacts from nitric oxide. And it's like, how about we mandate everyone nasal breathes? but there's a lot of benefits of that. And so I've been doing that. And so I do that in the morning, but I'll also do it throughout the day. And I don't have a prescribed time that I wake up. I go to sleep when I'm tired, which is usually about 9:30. And then my body tells me how much it needs. And so I believe an alarm clock's hazardous to our health. And so, but it's amazing. When I do that, I still wake up at the same time every day without the alarm clock, and I do it in time for the sunrise. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So describe a little bit about the ionized water, right? Because there's going to be people listening that hear that and say, okay, what the heck is that? Right. So describe that a little bit more in detail.
Yeah, I'm certainly not the expert on it, but we ran across a number of people who do it, and you know, sometimes it can come across as a bit multi-level marketing-y, you know, and we don't sell it, so I'm not selling it or anything, but we got this. It's Kangen. Our brand is Kangen water filter, and it's ionized water. Now, water that you can find is ionized actually is water that goes over a mountain stream and naturally ionizes based on the electric particles of the rock. And some expert may say, Curt, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking. But basically, that's what I understand it is. Mm-hmm. And you can get different levels of it. So we can go highly ionized, which is highly alkaline water. Then you can go high acidic. So we brush our teeth with the acidic water, and our teeth it's crazy. I've never been cleaner. alkaline water allows you to balance out the acidic. I'm basically carnivore, 99% carnivore diet. So I have a very acidic diet. So I balance that out with alkaline water as well. If you really get into what's going on in terms of the health impacts of COVID, there's a lot in terms of, looking at blood of COVID victims and seeing it's almost like thick. So it goes back to the oxygenation of your blood, goes actually to breathing, and the breathing exercises I talked about helps to increase the alkalinity within your blood and how the CO2 delivers it. So I just reinforce that with the water as well. And it tastes really good. And like when you make coffee, it makes it a lot more cleaner. And we added the filter on it as well. So just from a getting out the nickel and the lead and whatever, given what happens like in Flint, Michigan, I don't trust the government to give us good water. So, anyways, that's kind of the long and short of it, but there's a lot more to it that I'm still learning.
Yeah. And I would just say, if you're listening to it, get curious about it, because not all water is the same. And water, we're made so much of water, but we just trust in what we're putting into our bodies from that perspective. So that's pretty powerful. I will say, you touched on Wim Hof, you touched on the oxygen advantage. I actually looked over my shoulder because I had the book on the floor and about halfway through it, because I've had a certified Wim Hof instructor come to the gym I used to own. Know him pretty well, ex-Navy SEAL, ex-FBI agent, pretty badass dude. And I've gone through those breathing sessions, and it's so incredibly powerful to breathe through your nose and to concentrate on your breath. And it's such a automatic thing that we take it for granted, and we don't really think about how that impacts us. And if you're mindful about how you breathe, being sure you're breathing through your nose, because that's where you get all that good stuff, right? That quality air, and it's so powerful.
It's amazing. And either of those books, there's another book called Breathe by James Nestor that came out this past year. And I found out about it. He did a long interview with Joe Rogan.
Okay.
You got to be kidding me. And just how big the nose is. And it's like a softball behind your head, and just the filtering mechanisms of your nose. And I was always, when I run and I do sprints, I always breathe through my mouth. And when the air gets cold, it hurts.
Yep.
Well, now it's tougher to go through your nose, but when you do it through your nose, it doesn't. It naturally warms it. But we actually, they trace, and talk about being able to get rid of your CPAP machine and getting rid of do these things. So we've actually, my wife and I, for a couple of months, have been mouth taping at night, and it really helps. And I think just a lot of it goes to the inclination in our society that we've been told that health equals just taking a drug or technology. Technology is great and can improve our quality of life, but when it becomes a substitute for healthy habits, I think we're seeing that this year. Whenever I see someone who passed away and they were otherwise healthy, were they? Because I know some folks who say, well, I'm healthy, but they're on 8 prescription drugs, or they do this, or they're hooked up to this. It's like, are you masking health? Or can you change your behaviors and habits to actually make yourself truly healthy? And one last thing on this, I posted on Twitter the other day that I get sunlight. I get direct sunlight, because with this, and actually I think it was back in the Spanish flu, and they exhumed bodies, they found vitamin D deficiencies. Yep. And they're finding vitamin D deficiencies now. And by the way, my wife would post that on Instagram and be fact checked earlier this year, but now there's actual studies, right, showing this. So now it's okay. And Tony Fauci said he takes vitamin D. So now it's not a conspiracy theory anymore, right? Which is interesting. But I posted it that I do breathing, and I do breathing out. I like to do it in the sunlight. Mm-hmm. And so I'm getting just that double whammy, right? And I said, because I don't want to be a slave of Big Pharma. And by the way, I used to work for Big Pharma. And someone responded and said, this guy's anti-science, and this guy's whatever. And I said, having healthy habits and behaviors is anti-science. I could also add clean eating. So the notion that, I used to be 60 pounds heavier. Okay. I used to be suffering from anxiety attacks. I was on a cocktail of prescription drugs. I was told that I had genetic disposition toward bad cholesterol. So I was on statins for 8 years. I was told that I had irritable bowel syndrome and was put on drugs that literally drove me crazy. And I changed my behaviors and my habits. And what am I on now? Nothing. And that if that's anti-science, then I think we have a real problem in our society, which I think we do, with this reliance on somebody told me, someone with a certain acronym behind their name told me I need to do this, and therefore I'm done thinking for myself, and I'm just going to do this and not change the underlying behaviors, habits, systems, and processes that could actually make me healthy.
Yeah, and kudos to you, and that's amazing to hear that. And I'm a huge advocate of putting on that white lab coat and figuring out what works and questioning everything, right? And you talk about getting advice from, let's say, a doctor, and studies have shown 60 to 65% of doctors are obese and overweight and don't take care of their health. What are we just continuing to perpetuate when we don't question how things are done and what we can do to naturally improve our sleep, our breathing, our diet, exercising, our fitness level? And there's so much power in that. And you can do small things on a daily basis that just have a tremendous, tremendous impact on your mental health, your physical health, and your quality of life at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's and a telling statistic. There's two. One is that I think it's the average doctor has had somewhere between the average, like 12 to 19 hours total of nutritional training in his or her life. Yep. But a lot have had zero. And yet people take nutritional advice from doctors. I went and got my primal health certificate last year, health coach, for my family. And because I'm a health nerd, I mean, just for that, I don't coach it. I don't teach it.
Right.
And so, like you said, yeah, putting on your health coat, being a professor of your own life and knowing what works for you, is so important. And I think we're headed down dangerous ground this year when talking about things like taking vitamin D and vitamin C is fact checked. Right. And you're a conspiracy theorist and all this. And so that's like 1984 type stuff. And, I see the intro and I've seen your podcast and the things you do in the cold showers and all this. And I don't know if you've read Wim Hof's newest book, but he talks about the fact that, he's gone to these researchers here in the US. And I think it might've been University of Minnesota or something. And he's done these things and like, this is groundbreaking. This is incredible in curing anxiety and all that. We're going to take it. Radio silence.
Yep.
And it was only European universities that listened to him. Because if you, like you said, put on the lab coat for your own life, if you change your behaviors and lifestyles naturally, that benefits you, but it doesn't make money for someone else. And I think that at the same time, there's an awakening on that. There's also a strengthening from a bigger part of the population where it's just, I do what I'm told. Someone said this, I follow this, and I'm going to tune you out. And the key is you can't do more for people than they want to do for themselves.
Very, very true. And I would say part of what I do is trying to show people there is another way. And we talked about yesterday, I jumped in the Atlantic Ocean and it was freezing. And so many people said, "You're crazy." Yeah, I'm crazy, but I haven't had the flu or had a cold in 2+ years. And I've been taking cold showers and doing the breathing for that long of time. So isn't there some correlation, right? And it's so incredibly powerful. And honestly, it's like talking to myself as we're going back and forth. And I know we could go deep down the rabbit hole, but let's talk a little bit about, delivering that right message to the right people to generate the right revenue and the 4 pillars of Authority brand. So share a little bit about your experiences, and if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, which you now work with, what are some ways really to get your message out there and be impactful to potential clients?
Yeah, it's right message, right clients, right revenue. And that's simple. Yeah, because it is that simple. And, having been in this business for 25 years, I'll tell you the same principles that were true 25 years ago are true now. But people get distracted by shiny objects. And oh my gosh, there's a new social media network. Oh my gosh, there's a new tool or technology. And oh my gosh, growing up, I was always coming of age, not growing up in the PR and advertising industry. And I worked in politics for many years. It was the medium is the message. And you came to believe that. It's like, no, it's not. The medium's not the message is the message. And we've come to believe that the medium is the message. And so we tailor what we do to the medium rather than the other way around. It's the tail wagging the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I came up with these 4 pillars. The first one's attention. They all begin with A, because I'm not smart enough to remember anything else. So there's 4 pillars and they all begin with an A. The first is attention. Unfortunately, that's where most people start and then stop. Mm-hmm. It's about eyeballs. It's about likes and views and shares. And oh my gosh, how outrageous I can be to get more views on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, whatever it is. The problem with that is you may not be communicating the right message to the people who want to buy your stuff. So the second pillar, which is extremely important, is accuracy. Okay. Who is your ideal client? And niching down takes confidence in what you provide in the product or service, because it's scary, right? It's a lot easier to go into the ocean with a big net and say, well, I'm going to catch some fish and make some money.
Right.
Problem with that is, I grew up in the Midwest. They have an Asian carp problem that came out of there were floods in Mississippi. They had brought an Asian carp. They're going up the thing and they're going up the Illinois River. And when they hit the Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes, it's game over. They're an invasive species. They're going to eat all the other fish. The problem is when we go into Lake Michigan with a huge net saying, I'll catch some. Yeah, you may catch some of your ideal clients, but you also catch those clients that eat your good clients, that take up your time, that eat your company, that you're not able to scale your business. So find the right clients, go to the smaller pond, have the confidence to do it, and then you bait your hook with your impact message, which leads us to the next pillar, which is alignment. It's not just about what you do. No one gives a damn about you. They may love you as a person, have empathy for you, but the minute you ask someone for money, they want to know what's in it for me. Mm-hmm. So you align, what you do, but more importantly, that ideal client, what do they want? Not necessarily what do they need, because a lot of business owners, and I've been guilty of it, what we do is we meet someone who's a potential client, we verbally vomit on them. Mm-hmm. Vomit all over them with our features, our bells, our whistles, our resume, our experience, how wonderful we are. And at the end of the day, they're like, that's great, but I just wanted to know what's in it for me. Right. We think we know what they need instead of shutting up and saying, hey, what are your challenges and where you want to go? And they tell us. By the way, that means at the end of the day, you may not be able to help them, right, but you may have some friends and referral partners that you say, hey, you know what, Jeff, I can't help you, but I know Jim over here can help you, or Jane can help you. Then you build goodwill all the way around. It's a win-win-win, and that's wonderful. So alignment. And that brings us to the 4th pillar, which is authenticity. Not fake authenticity like we see on social media a lot. True authenticity, where you show up every day, consistently, truthfully, factually, maybe pair it with third-party credibility. And that's when you bring in, we list attention first because that's what most people expect. Mm-hmm. Really, you bring it in last, and you get that authentic, regular, consistent attention of the people who matter, right, with your impact story message. And I don't call it value prop. If you look up the word proposition in the dictionary, there's some interesting pieces, some related to like prostitution and offers for sex, right? If that's what your business is, great. But a proposition is not just proposing. It's not selling. It's not pitching, right? Your first conversation should be, hey, here's what I do. And you let the buyer opt in or out. Wow. How do you do that? Well, would it be worth 20 minutes to discuss how I can help you? Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, let's do that. And then you enter into a cooperative, collaborative relationship with your client rather than coercive. The 4 pillars.
I love that. And I love the piece around coming from a place of truly helping. And if you can't help them, I had a Zoom call with a new connection on LinkedIn yesterday, and we were talking, and I asked him how I could help. And here he has almost a finished book done, but he needs some editing. Well, I connected him with my editor, and now they have a relationship. And if you come from that mindset, it's so much more powerful. You don't feel any angst related to, I've got to sell or pitch some. No, just come from a place of helping. And I'm a firm believer that the universe will reward you, right? What you give, you'll get back. And if you just come from that heart-centric focus of giving, it's so powerful.
Yeah, I often get, I even teach my clients to get down, not only how to produce content and all that stuff, but who's your ideal client? I have 5 pages of questions we go through. Not only industry, job title, and all that. What's their age? What's their gender? Are they married? Are they faith-based? Are they not faith-based? Are they liberal? Are they conservative? And people say, well, why does that matter? Mm-hmm. I have a personal trainer client We doubled his income last year. He came to me, his gym was shut down in Chicago due to the lockdown. He's like, listen, I got to train people online. How do you do that? Can you even do that?
Right.
He's making like mid six figures now doing that.
That's
We
awesome.
found out after going through this process, because he had some clients, and it's the people you click with, the people who aren't going to doubt you, the people who love working with you. His ideal client is woman 55 to 65, divorced and Jewish, and a high executive. Now, there's reasons for that. He's in the north side of Chicago. It's the type of people he's reaching out to. But you just don't know until you let the data lead you there.
Okay.
Then you put together that impact story. And then when you call people, when you pick up on the phone, we actually even go through scripting. How does that go? And people are like, well, what do you say when you first reach out to people? It's like, I don't know. What do you say to someone like another human being at a networking event? Or what do you, it's a conversation. You be human. And a lot of times I'm like, hey, we just connected on LinkedIn, Jeff. I always like to reach out beyond the profile. How you doing today? I'm doing great. Is now a good time? Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm just reaching out beyond the profile, and how's your 2020 going? And then they'll tell you everything that's going on. And they may say, hey, I was 80% referral based up until this year, and all my referrals dried up, so I'm struggling. Oh, and they'll say, sorry, I talked all about myself. What do you do, Curt? I say, well, actually, I specialize in helping financial advisors recover lost revenue that they lost when their referrals dried up. No kidding. How do you do that? Would it be worth 20 minutes to hop on a call to learn how I can help you do that? Right. I do that 10 times a day, and it helps me grow my revenue. And it's like, oh, wow, it's not pitching. It's not selling. It's a conversation. And you let people talk. You shut up. You listen. And if they have a need, it's like you said, hey, I'm having trouble publishing my book. Oh, great. I'm not a book publisher, but I know someone who is.
Right.
And it might be, hey, I need help with my morning habits. I need help. Hey, Jeff, can you help? Hey, would it be worth 20 minutes to hop on a call to learn how I can? Yeah, great. Let's collaborate.
Yeah, there's so much power in that help factor, and just, I love to think of it as a connector, right? Who can I connect who to, and just enrich their lives, and quality people, quality individuals that are looking to maximize their days, have the best life that they have possible, and that's an incredibly powerful thing. So, Curt, I know you have a very interesting entrepreneurial story of kind of where you started, where you got to, and you said, hey, enough is enough. Can you share that story a little bit? Because I think it's so powerful from a backstory of what you decided to do and where you were feeling and how you were feeling in that process.
Yeah. I scaled this company over 14 years. And really for the last 8 years, I was in denial. I started to just not like it. I let in the wrong clients. And a lot of people, you woke up and shut down your agency. What are you, an idiot? Like, why didn't you sell it? Why didn't you, whatever? And it's like, yeah, if I had come to that realization 3 or 4 years earlier and built that runway to do it, that would have been great. But there's people who know what I'm talking about, where you wake up in the morning and you decide, I'm done. And I was sick of anxiety attacks. I was sick of being unhealthy. I was sick of being, not feeling like I was being the dad that I wanted to be. I was sick of being at the dinner table with my kids and not being mentally present, sometimes not being physically present. And that had been happening for a long time. And my revenue grew and my fulfillment lessened. And I always felt trapped. I'd go out for a walk in the middle of the day and I felt guilty. What if the client calls? I got to be there for the client, And so I woke up, I shut it down and said, listen, I came to that realization that why do I have to do stuff I don't want to do? Like I literally don't want to do that. And you had an episode, and I'm trying to look at exactly what it was, but I saw it and listened to it, and it was about doing the things you hate.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I had Isaac Morehouse. He's a friend, startup advisor, and we talked about this 2 years ago, and he said, don't confuse hard with hate. Because often the things that are hardest to do are the things we love. But a lot of times we think, oh, you just want to do the things you love, so you have an easy life. I'll tell you, the hardest thing that I've ever done is shutting down a 7-figure business and starting from scratch and building it up.
Right.
But it's the thing I've loved the most in my career. What was really easy was making money being miserable. That was actually easy to do. And so, doing the stuff you hate, it depends. And you can't, there are days, by the way, when I hate getting up and getting into cold water. And
we're
doing
natural. We're human beings, right? Not everybody wakes up and says, I'm going to do this today.
Exactly. But there's a difference. And I find this, it's for all humans, but hey, I'm a guy. And so I know the guy's perspective. There's a difference between toughness and stupidity, right? So like lifting weights, if I lift weights heavy and I'm sore and I'm tired, but I get out another set or two, that's toughness. That's good. If I'm doing squats and I feel my quadricep tear,
right,
and I'm like, nope, I got to get on another couple sets, that's stupidity. And knowing the difference between toughness and stupidity, not just for working out, but for life, is, all right, I'm tired and I hate doing another set. That's different than I'm going to do permanent damage. And when we do that for life, when I woke up in that day, I said, listen, I'm gonna keep doing permanent damage to myself and the people around me. And you look at these things in hindsight, and if I had had that company and was in that sphere of life this year, I don't know what I would have done to myself. My clients that I had that were paying me so much money 2 years ago, they were caught unawares. Some of them have gone out of business completely. I would have been left, rather than leaving on my own terms and building up my company over 3 years, I would have been overnight, not of my choice. The rug would have been pulled out. And so I think a lot of people who for a long time have traded their freedom for security are now realizing it's a false sense of security, and like, wait, I haven't done what I've actually wanted to do for like the last 10 or 15 years. And now I lost my job anyways from something that I thought was secure come in February, but it's a black swan event, right? You didn't know this was going to happen. And so doing what you want to do isn't about having just an easy life and a life of ease. In fact, it might be the hardest thing you've ever done, but actually defining what you want, I find, is one of the most, it's the most important, but also the most challenging. I've had people, I asked them, what do you want to do? If you had a magic wand and woke up tomorrow in the life you desire, I've had people who've paid me thousands of dollars, and I asked them that question. I never hear from them again. And I even try to give them their money back, and they don't, because it's such a hard question to overcome your conditioning.
Right.
And when the desperation gets so loud, like it did for me, you're forced to change. That can be a good thing.
Yeah.
But some people, the subtitle of my book was Comfort Zone of Misery. It's that comfort zone because of paycheck, et cetera. You're miserable. Maybe you're on 8 drugs, but it's okay. But that's dangerous because you can go on for years when the desperation is quiet. Sometimes when the desperation gets loud, that's good because you're backed in a corner and you want to fight back.
Right.
So.
No, I love that. And I think that comfort zone, and if you stay in that comfort zone, right? What's the story of the frog going into a pot of boiling water, right? And if it's gradually just turned up, eventually the frog dies, and he never tried to jump up. Where I think a lot of that comfort zone, that's what happens. People live in it because the mind craves that comfort, that certainty, that safeness of it. And people just die a slow death and are unhappy. And you experienced it and had that pressure and had that moment. And, looking back, obviously you connect the dots now. You're so thankful that you went that route for sure.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you talk about that zone of quiet desperation or the comfort zone of misery over time. It's the difference between a lot of people fall in, and I used to be in this realm of chronic cardio, right? Where you just do it every day because it's what you do and you think that's the only way you can stay in shape. And what happens over the time is it's a chronic stressor. And so your cortisol, levels are constantly high. You break down, and that type of chronic cardio is a stressor that breaks you down. Yeah. But then when you learn about breathing and about cold showers and about, I do a lot of long, slow walking now, but a few times a week I do sprints. And what that does, the sprints and the breathing and the showers are controlled stress where you raise the cortisol up and adrenaline up, and then you bring it down. And so cortisol is not a bad thing unless it's chronic. But when you do this, you train yourself to bring it up and bring it down. And when you apply those principles to your life, but also your business, that's where it's wonderful, because that's when you get in a state of flow rather than just chronic burnout and chronic, oh my gosh, I got to wake up in the morning, I'm anxious, and I got to do this and that and the other thing. Like right now, people ask me, well, what do you do during the day? Well, I mean, this is a holiday week, so it's a little different, but I don't need days off because my days are in alignment, not balance, but alignment. So I wake up in the morning. I'd already told you about my morning routine. Sometimes, 10 o'clock, I'm doing a podcast with you. I'll do some calls. I make 10 calls, outreach calls for sales based on people I've connected with, et cetera. And then usually after 1 o'clock, sometimes I do boot camps. I have my client boot camps. I'll do that from noon to 1. And after 1, I go to the beach, I run, I walk. Sometimes I'll use the Freedom app where it actually shuts down everything on my phone and my computer, so I'm not tempted.
Right.
And then that's it. And it's alignment. And I build my business, but I'm not doing more than I need to. It's not that I don't care. It's that the time spent on the beach for my self-care is as important as building my business. So I've had people say, but if you just doubled the time, you'd be a multimillionaire. And I said, I already was. And I hated it. So, and it's not that money is a bad thing, but money is a receipt for the value that you provide other people. And if you can do that and then move on, and I look at other people as myself, and I look at other people as my family. And so I don't just owe my potential clients value. I owe it to the other people around me. And that's where you can build true alignment in your days.
Oh, I love that. Love that. That's so beautiful. So Curt, tons of value today. I know you wanted to give us something away to the audience. What the 3 free branding webinars, what can they do to grab that? Yeah.
So real easy. You take out your smartphone and you text the word YOUTHORITY, YOUTHORITY. It's like authority, except take away the AU, replace it with YOU, authority, to the number 55678. So text YOUTHORITY to 55678. You'll receive an auto link in return where you click on that, and there's 3 free webinars, 4 pillars of building an authority brand, how to build your authority brand through podcasts, and then leveling up your LinkedIn. All free to you, no harm, no foul, and it's spelling YOUTHORITY is easier than spelling Mercadante. So easy way for you to get some value.
Curt, I appreciate you being on the show. Awesome time.
Jeff, I really appreciate it. I had a wonderful time. Thank you.
You got it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day. Rise, fight, love, repeat. Get after it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. You now have the knowledge, but without action, knowledge is useless. Choose to act. Choose to step into your greatness and unlock that hero inside of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review so more entrepreneurs can hear this message. If you absolutely love this podcast, which I hope you do, then share it up with someone you know who might see benefit from it. Become that beacon of change, and together we can impact the world.